How do you deal with the question of, am I just imagining things? Am I assigning meaning to something meaningless when it comes to spirits trying to talk to you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'll start with I never entirely dismiss it. I never decide that 100% sure, absolute, like like it is fact.
You are open about the fact that you are agnostic.
I am open about the fact that I'm agnostic. I am a person and I have a limited perspective on things, and it is entirely possible for me to assign meaning where there is no meaning or find patterns where there are no patterns. It is entirely possible for me to believe that I am a super special snowflake, TM, and that all manner of things are interested in little old me, and to be arrogant about my importance on a universal scale. It is important to me to always remember that I might just be a crazy person, or that I might just be imagining things, or that even if I am perceiving something, if something is trying to communicate with me, I may not be perceiving it accurately. And this is slightly different than what I just ran through of believing I might be a crazy person. I also know that it is entirely possible for something to portray itself to me as what I would like to see, or that I might twist the perception of something to suit my own ends. We don't even, like, as humans, as people, in a very mundane, real world sense, what we perceive can be twisted through the lens of our experience and expectations. We assign value, we
Humans are very good at being biased and at assigning value to things that either we like or we agree with or we expect,
or that tell us what
or
we
that tell us what we want to hear.
Mhm.
Is that sort of
Exactly. So I
it's
always,
a statistician's nightmare?
no matter what is attempting to communicate with me, I always keep in mind that it might not be there. It might not be what I think it is, and that I need to be examining not only what I am perceiving, but my own intentions around what I might be perceiving. So, Alexander, when you see things or hear things or feel things, how do you deal with the thought that you might just be imagining it?
I tell my head that it's probably not right. I don't think that my body, I don't think that I imagine things when I'm feeling something spiritual. I feel that it is almost always there. Or that I'm going mad.
I'm going
Slightly mad. Okay. Thank you, Alexander. Ian, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I have a kind of weird take on this that I find useful anyway. Everything is absolutely happening all in my head. My entire experience of reality is happening in my head. The fact that and so the fact that it may not be happening in my head through something that is clearly marked as a socially acceptable sensory channel doesn't actually mean that it's not part of my experience or part of my reality. Um, I don't think I don't. So it's sort of the same way that you can go. Okay, one sec then. I don't like not everyone shares my experience of reality based on my perception of people's body language either. So my experience basically. So if I perceive something, I operate under the assumption that I am correct until proven otherwise, whether it's my perception about the person in the room with me or my perception about there being a spirit in the room with me. The motivation for those questions were because I don't have any obvious perception I can label a spirit, no matter what I have to reach somewhat to find that. So I am actually right there with you.
As someone who
As someone
is
who doesn't,
aphantasic.
right. I am essentially aphantasic. Sight is not actually my primary sense. And
Is sneaky.
That's not a sense,
not
honey. That's a
sense.
talent.
It feels like a sense to him.
So come back to that in a second, but I don't necessarily have a sensory experience that I can clearly define as seeing a spirit or hearing a spirit a lot of the time. It's similar to the way that you can just know that there's someone standing behind you, even if they make no noise, and you can't feel their breath, and you can't see them, but you know they're there anyway. It's knowing stuff without obvious sensory input for me, and it definitely took a while to learn how to essentially poke that sensation with my mind and see if it persists. Does that make sense? Because there have definitely been times when I'm like, okay, there's definitely something behind me. Is there really though? Yep, there really is. Versus, is there really no? Actually, no, I don't think so. And unfortunately, English does not have appropriate vocabulary other than poking at it with my mind to describe the process there, unfortunately.
Then let's see. Why would it want to interact with me in any way in the first place? So, I have multiple answers to that one.
Do I get to have an answer?
You can, if you, so I'll go, and then if you have an answer you want to give, you can give it, okay?
Okay.
So my answer to this is not necessarily reassuring. It is in my experience that the spirit world has interest in you for all the same reasons that people have interest in you, and for basically that whole spectrum of intention. Sometimes they're interested because they see potential in you, they see ability in you. Sometimes they're interested because they're bored. Sometimes they're interested because they're malicious and they want to manipulate you or harm you or take something from you. Sometimes they're interested in you because you have noticed them, and that alone can make them sort of go, wait, this person can perceive me, this person has noticed me, this person has seen me, or felt me or heard me. Sometimes they're lonely. Sometimes they want to use you. There are things that being in the other world they cannot accomplish on their own, so they seek to have people accomplish it for them.
Like unfinished business?
Yeah, like unfinished business. Sometimes I think it's because they feed off of it in a way that isn't so detrimental to us, but like I believe that a lot of the gods, or being similar to gods, the more people who worship them and acknowledge them and in some way praise them, then the better off they are. So it doesn't necessarily hurt you. It's not detrimental. It's not like they're stealing your energy, but there's definitely an exchange that they benefit from.
That could be like finding something that they left that they need to look at again, like a picture.
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons why some would be interested in you. So,
Maybe you have a cool toy.
yeah, maybe they think of you as a cool toy.
No, you have a cool toy.
Oh, and they like your toys?
Yes.
You know, I've had spirits contact me, or at least I think, again, please remember that I do this with a grain of salt, because they want to taste something again, and I'm willing to share with them the experience of tasting something. So there's all manner of reasons why someone might be interested in you. Now, again, I encourage taking that interest with a grain of salt. If it seems like they are treating you like the super specialist, special whoever special, and they want to give, and there's no price, you know, it's the same thing. If someone that you
Right.
just met wants to step into your life and fulfill all roles within it and tell you that
Pay
you're the
for
best
everything,
who ever
give you
bested,
everything, tell you how awesome you are.
and then start suggesting to you that, you know, your other friends and family just don't see how valuable you are and that you should depend on them for more and more and more things.
Maybe there should be some red flags.
Yeah,
The same
so-
applies. The fact of the matter is, in my experience, spirits have more motivations than humans because they have, at the end of the day, most interactions with people come because they want something. It may be company, it may be an answer to a question, it may
Like
be
why
assistance, it may be a lot of different things. But most people don't interact with other people for no reason at all. Likewise, most spirits don't interact with people for no reason at all. Sometimes the reason is boredom, sometimes the reason is company, but sometimes the reason is grooming. And there's also a whole host of others in the case of spirits, like, oh, I don't know, your example of to taste something again is a pretty good one. That's there are humans who do the eating by proxy thing in certain facets of, for example, diet culture, but generally not to quite the same extent. So there's a broader range of things that they might want from you, which means there's a broader range of reasons for them to initiate an interaction.
So just keep that in mind. Yes, honey, it's your turn.
I think that most spirits would have interest in something or somebody because it has a sentimental value to them, or because they're just curious.
Thank you. That's, you know what? Curiosity is absolutely a motivation that I always forget to include. How do you apply your nuggets of evidence model to spirit communication? Actually, weirdly, two of your questions, let's see, where was it in here? I know it was somewhere on Discord. Someone asked about my early spirit communications. Maybe I'm misremembering about where that took place because I'm not seeing it in this. My evidence model actually comes like from my very first spirit communication sessions, and particularly with the entity that went on to become my primary guardian.
Pinky!
Not Pinky, actually. This was before I had Pinky.
What the?
Yep.
You had it before Pinky?
Hey, Alexander.
I did.
You're interrupting.
But you're right. Pinky is one of my spiritual guardians. Pinky's story is a little different than this one.
Scarecrow?
No, Scarecrow was actually Ian's before he was mine. So,
Occasionally it shows.
yeah, when I was very, very young, there was a spirit that would appear to me and insist to me that it was real, that I was perceiving a being that actually existed as a separate being from my head, my inner world, my creation, and that it wanted to help me. And I had been doing therapy at that time for long enough to understand that adults around me thought that I was precocious, imaginative, highly creative, bored and likely to come up with things inside my own head to keep me company, to entertain me, and to protect me, because I did not feel well protected by the adults around me for good reason. So I started doubting my own perceptions and essentially saying, like, kids pick up on stuff, even if you never use the word crazy, even if you never use it, even if you never tell them that what they're seeing isn't real, although in that case they had actually explicitly said it's not real, you're just imagining
They
things.
still pick up on the looks that you slant back and forth.
And the careful way you phrase things. So I was already aware that the adults around me thought that what I was seeing was not only not real, but potentially a sign of there's being something deeply wrong with me. And that if something was deeply wrong with me, I would never be adopted, because while I was in foster care. So this spirit used to insist to me, like, I'm real. I am standing right here trying to talk to you. And I'd be like, no, you're not real. You're not real. I am imagining you. And I would ignore it. And eventually it got to the point where it was like, well, fine, what do I need to do to prove to you that I am real? And I would give it tasks and it would do them. And to this day, I still occasionally will give it a task and see what happens.
What?
And here's the thing.
You still have it?
Yep, here's the thing. I have always been able to figure out a way that I could have done the task myself and just convinced myself, like, to erase my memories of doing the task. If I am sufficiently a crazy person, then there are ways I could have done each of these tasks.
Right, but this is essentially Descartes' evil demon argument, but with insanity.
Yes.
To a certain, if you are, so part of the reason that true certainty is very difficult, if not impossible, is that if you are willing to accept the possibility that you are so crazy that your experience of reality may simply be false, then you can't prove anything.
Yep. And that's exactly the problem that I run into, is that if I am that crazy, well, then obviously this being could be some aspect of my personality, like a dissociative identity that exists to protect me and that is taking me over.
Wait.
And
Alexander?
what, honey?
Can I have a question? I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, two questions. What was the question again? And also, in the sense of the in the spirit, does it still wander around our house?
That one?
Yeah.
That is my primary protector. When I send a spirit to kick the other bad spirits out, that is the one that I send. When we do seances and I call up a spirit,
Do you believe it's a thing now?
I go back and forth.
I believe you're real, but
Oh, well, thank you, Alexander.
mostly because sometimes I see the broom like in a different location when nobody has touched it, and I'm pretty sure Mama.
Funnily enough, one of the ways I used to ask him to prove himself was to move Pinky around, to like pick up Pinky and put Pinky down somewhere else.
Holy crap, that's creepy, because one time it was at the foot of my head, remember? And
I remember.
Up, and Pinky was just above me.
Yep, I remember. Pinky moves around. But what if I'm just crazy and I pick up Pinky and I move Pinky
Mom's
around
not
and
crazy.
I don't remember it?
Alexander.
So
Can
that's basically where I came up with the idea of demanding bits of proof, was to tell this spirit, prove to me not only that you are real, but that your intentions are good. And one of the things that this spirit in particular would say to me is, well, you know, I think my intentions are good, but what if you disagree? And it was the first spirit to be like, well, I'm trying, but like even you don't know if your intentions are always what they should be. And I was like, well, damn, you're right. So All right, Ian, did you want to take a chance to answer the question?
I'm sorry, I don't remember what the original
Do you
question.
use bits of proof in spirit communication? How does that weave into your practice of spirit communication? We're not going to get through all the questions today on this particular topic. Sorry.
No, not really.
No? But I've seen you be like tap 3 times or make the
So-
fire flare.
So I will do so when I have an audience.
Ah.
If I'm doing ghost hunting, for example, I'll do the tap 3 times thing. If I'm at a seance and I want to make sure that everyone else in the room is aware of what's happening and believes, okay, make the candle flare. Or on one memorable occasion, light the orange on fire.
I remember the light the orange on fire.
Which was not actually my request, but it worked, I guess. If I'm just doing individual communication, I essentially say either this is a thing that is really happening, in which case proof is not necessary, or this is a thing that is not really happening, I'm crazy, and I will arrange for whatever standard of proof I ask for to be met, so it's irrelevant. And in either case, it's not necessary to deal with proof. Now, I have asked for proof of intention. Essentially a good faith gesture in certain cases. But that's not quite the same thing.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Alexander, do you ask for bits of proof from spirits? Like,
One time.
Yeah?
Mhm.
What do you ask them to do?
There was this one time when I was in my room by myself. I think it was quite a few weeks ago. Like, quite a few, I mean, like maybe a year ago worth of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing with my Legos. And I heard footsteps enter my room. And I knew that they were real because they sounded like my footsteps. They were.
Yeah, big, loud footsteps. Gotcha.
And my immediate question was pick up a Lego brick if you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lego brick picked up and was put into my bed.
Okay.
I didn't really think much of it because I was like,
Well, you've grown up in a house of people who tell you they might be, they might not be. What's important is that you feel safe and you feel like you have the power to command them to leave you alone if need be.
this is when I had told the spirit in my room to frick off with the pans.
I remember that
Mm-hmm.
with your own little mini cast iron and mini broom.
Frickin' get out!
Okay, so how would you instruct a complete beginner to find enough proof to truly believe? So, weirdly enough, my issue in the past with all of our students has been the opposite, in that they are so eager to believe, that they run around taking the hands of the first things to say, you have a grand destiny, TM, you are supposed to be the super special secret chosen one. You are supposed to sign in blood on the dotted line for this forever contract, and you're going to be the most powerfulest powerful who ever powerful, and in return I shall praise you for aeons. And I'm sitting here going like, no. This shit never works out the way you think it's going to work out. It's actually,
it's like you writing on the piece of paper with the blood. You could be like a very invisible ink at the bottom and give your soul to a god that is not good.
well, see, I don't think you can actually give your soul away, but I do get your point. I've had a couple of students who have the opposite problem. I don't know if this is real. I don't know if I believe. I don't know that I can feel enough to trust in what I am feeling. And in that case, I've worked on exercises to increase perception, to increase gnosis, to increase self-knowledge and knowledge of the other world, until they're confident enough in their own abilities to say whether they think it's all in their head or all outside their head or some Venn diagram of the two, or whether that distinction even matters to them. And I focused on getting them comfortable with a sense of their own power and a trust in their own perception rather than on whether or not it's real. Because I don't feel like I have the right to say that for anyone else.
My thoughts on this are basically, one, I'm not sure it's healthy to have. Okay, so you've basically got two kinds of belief. There is faith-based and evidence-based. I don't know that blind faith-based belief in anything is actually good or healthy. And in the case of the vast majority of people, you don't control your blind faith-based belief. One, it controls you, and two, it will form based on a inflection point in your life. It's not something that is consciously created in most cases. As far as evidence-based belief goes, you get to approach it rationally. What is my necessary standard of proof for accepting that this is probably true? Or at least that I should act as though it is until proven otherwise. You know, the standard of proof for the acceptance of gravity being true is generally something on the order of 2 weeks of it consistently working in infants. So, you know, that's sort of a place to start. If I consistently get what appear to be results based off of my practice for 2 weeks, then start with that. The other thing about evidence-based belief is that you have to be open to the possibility that it's real. If you go into practice going, nah, this is totally fake, nothing's gonna happen. Well, no, let me finish.
Okay.
Then you will probably be able to talk yourself out of believing in whatever results may occur.
I've seen this play another way.
I have also seen this
where
play
people
another
have
way.
been like, I don't believe, I don't believe, I don't believe, and things have taken it as a challenge. Actually, one of the things that occurred that was such a challenge to my agnosticism was explicitly upon the challenge of an atheist. And I think that is a perfectly valid faith position, the lack of faith. And I don't want this story to come across as a challenge to your faith perspective, because I believe it is entirely valid. Those disclaimers in place, there was an atheist who was attending our events for about 1.5 years, who at one point was like, you know, after witnessing what I did all today, I'm starting to hesitate to call myself an atheist and start to actually believe there was this spiritual presence in that home. And
I think I know what you're talking about.
I feel like, you know, I should reject that and say, no, I don't believe in you. If you're really real, do something to prove it to me. And basically this person was talking about, like, I don't believe, but I'm starting to, and now I'm questioning, and I guess I should just like throw the gauntlet down and see what it does. And the spirit unlocked it, opened the door.
Yeah.
At which point that person was like, okay, I'm never going with you on anything spiritual ever again. I refuse to participate in any of this because I don't want to think that there are spirits watching me all the time. Which is valid.
But that sort of ties into set your standard for what level of proof do you require. Because if it's, I require watching physical manipulation of objects without a physical entity present. Okay, if you see it, accept that.